The system wants to narrow this down to a two-horse race between Donald Trump and a puppet who they can control. And it has become increasingly clear that puppet is not a Democrat. It's not even Gavin Newsom. It's Nikki Haley. It's in our own party. Well, today, one more step in that plot unfolds. Chris Christie drops out. Next up, I'm going to make a prediction. You're actually going to see Ron DeSantis join Nikki Haley's ticket. He's going to be her VP. The whole game, it's hiding in plain sight. Whatever it takes. And this system will stop at nothing. And I mean nothing. To eliminate Donald Trump from contention. It's disgusting. But the same people who have said they're not going to actually take a principled stand against Trump's removal from the ballot. Haley and DeSantis are both in that category. Do the math, people. That's next up. Ron DeSantis says after Iowa, everybody, including Chris Christie, apparently got a phone call from Ron DeSantis. Panicked was the word that Chris Christie used. This is the way the plot's going. Ron may not know this. Ron DeSantis may not know this. But that's what his donors are going to make him do. That's what's coming next. Ron DeSantis will become Nikki's VP, whether or not Ron knows it. It's not really his choice. He's not the one in charge of that decision. And then the plot continues. We have to open our eyes and not fall into their trap. Our America First agenda cannot end. Our movement cannot end with Donald Trump when they take him out from contention. And if you think this system is going to even let this man get anywhere near the White House, we need to open our eyes. We need to do the right thing for our country. They are selling us the rope today that they're going to use to hang us tomorrow. Do not fall into the trap, people. And that's why I'm here.
Welcome to American Perfectionist, where we dissect the intricate tapestry of political landscapes with a magnifying glass of scrutiny. Subscribe, hit that like button, and let's embark on this intellectual exploration together. Let's dive into the heart of the matter of today's video. Vivek Ramaswamy flips script on liberal media reporters, leaving them shocked, exposing media lies. Vivek Ramaswamy, the man with a mission, a Republican with a penchant for holding the mainstream liberal media accountable. It's like he's the superhero we never knew we needed, armed with a truth-seeking shield and a cape made of fact-checking prowess. Move over, Batman. Vivek is here to save us from the fabricated chaos of the media. In a world where news outlets sometimes play fast and loose with the truth, Vivek Ramaswamy emerges as the brave crusader we've all been waiting for. He's like the Sherlock Holmes of politics, deducing the deceptions that have been slyly influencing elections and shaping public opinion. Ramaswamy doesn't just sip his tea. He spills the real tea on the media's consistent dissemination of falsehoods. It's like he's saying, "Not on my watch, fake news." Now, let's talk about his warning regarding the GOP primary. It's like Ramaswamy has this crystal ball that reveals the behind-the-scenes maneuvers of political chess players. He's pointing at Chris Christie's exit from the race, waving a caution flag about how such departures can be a sneaky plot to favor the establishment's interests. It's like political musical chairs, and if you're not careful, you might find yourself without a seat. Ramaswamy draws parallels to the 2020 Democrat primary, and it's as if he's handing out history lessons with a side of wit. Imagine him with a professor's hat, explaining how these trends transcend political spectrums like a bipartisan roller coaster. It's a revelation that needs a spotlight, a topic that conservative commentators should examine with the intensity of a detective solving a thrilling mystery. In the grand theater of politics, Vivek Ramaswamy is the lead actor, shining a spotlight on the flaws and foibles of the mainstream liberal media. He's not just a Republican. He's a truth warrior armed with witty critiques and historical insights. So, buckle up, folks, because Ramaswamy is here to keep the media honest and the GOP primary on its toes. It's like a political comedy, but with a touch of reality that makes you laugh and think at the same time. Vivek Ramaswamy, the man, the myth, the media watchdog we never knew we needed.
If this is okay, and I'm just kind of curious on the previous question that you those four things that were provably false.
Yes.
Were in the, and I'm just kind of curious. I know some of these guys, we've been following some of you guys. I'm curious if there's any national media who actually believe that they were wrong, that those were.
Actually, it's a good question, Eddie. So Eddie's one of the, you guys are colleagues, two of the top state reps here, and I think that's a good thing to be curious about. Just by show of hands, who here is willing to admit that the Trump-Russia collusion hoax was indeed incorrectly reported by the mainstream media? Is there anybody here able to admit that that was incorrect reporting.
It wouldn't be really appropriate for us to answer a question like that.
Why not? Why would that be inappropriate? I think it would be inappropriate. What's inappropriate is lying to the public.
We're doing our job asking you.
Was the public lied to, or did the media report on this set of facts that were provided?
So that's a fair question. I actually think that the public was lied to long after the media systematically still understood that this was the product of the Steele dossier. The Steele dossier was a piece of Russian disinformation provided by the Hillary Clinton campaign that was served up to the federal government as a basis for issuing a FISA warrant to then potentially infiltrate a member of the opposition.
So, let me spill the tea on the Steele dossier, the document that made Trump's alleged rendezvous with Russian prostitutes the talk of the town. I mean, we're not talking about a mere cup of coffee here. We're talking about a golden shower of controversy, and the liberal media ate it up like it was a buffet of juicy gossip. MSNBC practically treated it as their new gospel, even though some folks in the media were side-eyeing it like it was a suspicious casserole at a potluck. Fast forward to a government investigation that turned out to be a taxpayer-funded escapade. Millions down the drain, all in the name of trying to prove Trump was as legit as a $3 bill. It's like they were on a wild goose chase, only to find out the goose was a rubber ducky in a bathtub. Now, you'd think that when the dust settled, the media would come out with a grand apology tour like, "Oops, we goofed, our bad." But oh no, it's crickets. They're about as silent as a mime in a library. No retractions, no "my bad," just a collective shrug and a nonchalant, "Let's move on, folks." And don't get me started on the Hunter Biden saga, the tale of Russian disinformation that turned out to be faker than a spray tan in a rainstorm. CNN was shouting it from the rooftops. Wolf Blitzer was probably practicing his breaking news face in the mirror, and then poof. Turns out it was all a mirage, like a unicorn in a political desert. But did CNN or any of its buddies come forward and say, "Whoopsie daisy, we were wrong, our bad, let's clear the air"? Nah, they just let it float away like a helium balloon at a kid's birthday party. It's almost like accountability is a foreign word in their dictionary, right next to humility and fact-checking. So, here we are, stuck in a media circus where they ask the questions but dodge any directed at them. It's like a game of dodgeball where the media is the only one throwing the balls. And if you ask them to step into the ring, suddenly it's all, "Who, us? Nah, we're just here to ask the questions, not answer them." In the end, it's a comedy of errors, with the punchline being a lack of accountability. It's like watching a sitcom, but instead of laughing, you're just left scratching your head, wondering when the media will learn that admitting mistakes is not a sign of weakness. It's just good hygiene for the information age.
If this was Bush and Cheney doing it to John Kerry, this would have been the stuff of scandal, impeachment, and worse. And yet, I think it was an intentional lie that the media said that account, which we now know to be true, was actually the Russian disinformation. Now, Shauna, I would be charitable in my interpretation of that if it were just one instance. Let me give an easier one. Just by show of hands, does anybody believe the media's reporting about the origin of COVID-19 ran flatly in face of the facts that you have a Wuhan Institute of Virology that was now the likely origin of the COVID-19 pandemic? You all said that it wasn't for a long time. By show of hands, was the Wuhan lab the likely origin of the COVID-19 pandemic? Everybody, media or not. So you have reported, the same media that has reported that the COVID-19 pandemic did not originate in a lab in Wuhan is willing to even say, unwilling to admit today.
The report came out in 2023, so I guess.
It was known that there was a Wuhan Institute of Virology where they were conducting gain-of-function research, the very city which was the origin of a global pandemic, and yet the media's explanation was that somehow it could have been any source other than actually having started in a lab.
If you dared to utter the notion we're talking about, you weren't just slapped with the old conspiracy theorist label, oh no. You were handed a front row ticket to the carnival of character assassination. And guess what? The fallout wasn't just a few hurt feelings. It was like a game of Jenga where people's livelihoods and income were the precariously stacked blocks. And spoiler alert, the tower came crashing down. Why, you ask? Because the big shots in tech and the social media sphere decided to play a little game of censorship roulette, all in the name of, well, let's call it selective truth enforcement. If you even whispered the possibility that the virus might have had a lab rendezvous, consider your internet presence vanished. Poof, deleted like an embarrassing photo from a wild night out. But here's the kicker. Where's the accountability, you may wonder? It's like looking for a needle in a haystack, my friend. Not only do these puppet masters escape any consequences for turning people's lives into a dumpster fire, but they also skip the whole apology dance. They don't even have to do the cha-cha of correcting their reporting. Nope, they just move on, leaving a trail of metaphorical wreckage behind. Now, let's talk about irony. These so-called truth arbiters only started singing the lab origin tune when the facts were as glaring as a neon sign in the night. It's like they reluctantly joined the lab origin party because the evidence was too loud to ignore. But hey, who's counting when the mainstream media decides to do a 180? It's amazing how the truth becomes tolerable when it's no longer a secret clubhouse whisper, but a headline-grabbing reality show. In the grand circus of it all, we're left wondering, where's the accountability? Where's the apology? It's like expecting a cat to bark or a fish to climb a tree. In this wacky world, accountability is the unicorn, and apologies are the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, non-existent. But wouldn't that be a sight to behold? The absurdity, my friend, is nothing short of amazing.
I just think that that's systematically unacceptable. The Hunter Biden laptop. Is the Hunter Biden laptop story, as reported by the New York Post, which was shut down, had the Twitter account locked for anybody who is even sharing the story of the Hunter Biden laptop found on the eve of the last election? The media reported that it was Russian disinformation on the eve of that election. Does anyone here agree that the Hunter Biden laptop story, as reported by the New York Post, was indeed accurately reported and was not Russian disinformation, but was in fact a factually owned laptop of Hunter Biden? I mean, you got to, man. I mean, your paper reported it. Does everybody else seriously not believe that?
I mean, I believe that Hunter Biden is suing Rudy Giuliani over the laptop, so I don't think that's...
So you don't believe, so you think that it actually was the product of Russian disinformation, as was reported by the media? That was the basis for suppressing this at the time?
Over the Hunter Biden case, yeah. I'm not sure why we're talking about that.
Because it was election interference on the eve of the last election. And I think there's the same kind of election interference happening this time around. And I think it's happening, the early waves of it, with respect to the treatment of my candidacy. And I think that is likely to be a major problem heading into the next year, unless we're able to openly and transparently acknowledge the mistakes of the past. Without acknowledging the mistakes of the past, I think we are destined for an even more dangerous future. And I do not want to see a repeat of what happened in the 12 to 15 months leading up to January of 2021. I don't want to see that in this country. And I worry we're on a path to far worse than that until we have accountability 360 degrees for the mistakes that were made in that lead up. And the Hunter Biden laptop story and its suppression, Shauna, I do believe was a key part of the lead up to that. I think the suppression of the origin of COVID and the origin of the pandemic was a key part of the lead up to what happened in January of 2021. I think that the systematic suppression of speech in this country, even about debating the lockdowns, was a key part of what culminated in January 6, 2021. And as somebody who's looking to lead this country and hopefully, dare I say, reunite this country, I think it is critical, it is vital to the future of this country that we not repeat those same mistakes, and yet that's exactly what I'm seeing play out in slow motion, hiding in plain sight. And so it's my concern for this country that leads me to run for U.S. president. It's my concern for this country that causes me to raise what aren't some ancient issues to be swept under the rug. I think that history is relevant to what's happening today.
Once again, Vivek Ramaswamy is dropping truth bombs that make the media squirm in their uncomfortable seats. The media's response: crickets. But let's talk about another uncomfortable reality that Vivek Ramaswamy is throwing our way: the GOP Primary Circus. Sure, we've all had a good laugh at Chris Christie waltzing out of the race. But hold up, it's not just a comedy show. It's a rigged game. Chris Christie, the guy whose campaign was practically serenading New Hampshire, suddenly says, "Peace out," before the first vote is even cast. This dude had New Hampshire on repeat like it was his favorite song, and now he's ghosting the party. Something smells fishier than a seafood market in July. And what's the master plan behind Christie's exit? Oh, just your classic behind-the-scenes cloak and dagger maneuver to tilt the scales in favor of the establishment against Trump. It's like deja vu from the Democrats' playbook in 2020, dropping candidates strategically like it's a game of electoral chess. But wait, there's more. Christie spills the tea on an audio tape, admitting Nikki Haley ain't exactly the Trump slayer they're hoping for. So why the hasty exit? Because, my friends, the puppeteers pulling the strings backstage want Haley to have a fighting chance against the Trumpinator. This is basically the GOP version of a soap opera. where candidates drop out like it's the finale of a reality TV show. Will Chris Christie stay or go? Find out on the next episode of Primary Follies. And remember the 2020 Democratic primary drama? Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar did a surprise exit right before Super Tuesday, doing the cha-cha straight into Biden's arms. It's like a synchronized dance of political maneuvering, the establishment tango, if you will. Vivek Ramaswamy is waving the flag, shouting, "Hey people, this isn't just a laugh track, it's a serious case of election interference." The two-party system, according to Vivek Ramaswamy, is like the overprotective parent who only lets you choose between broccoli and spinach. No pizza, no burgers, just bland and predictable. So, while everyone's busy guffawing at Chris Christie memes, Vivek Ramaswamy is the lone voice saying, "Hey, wake up. The establishment is playing 4D chess, and we're stuck in a game of tic-tac-toe." Vivek Ramaswamy gets a shout-out for being the Paul Revere of this political circus, ringing the alarm bell while the rest of us are still debating whether Chris Christie left the race or just wandered off looking for more New Hampshire scenery. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here, perfectionists. It continues with each like, comment, and share. Stay informed, stay engaged, and let's keep the dialogue alive. Until next time, this is American Perfectionist signing off, because the world is a stage, and we're all players in the grand political drama. Remember, the quest for a more perfect union never ends. Keep striving, keep questioning, and let's continue this journey towards a better America together. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always aim for perfection.